All right, hello and welcome back to another episode of the Jimmy T Podcast, based out of here in All Night Study in OSI Podcast Studios here at UCF. And with me, as always, my co-host Ogar.
What's up, everybody?
It was a pretty good weekend for UCF sports, specifically football, getting a huge win to push the Knights to 5-4 on the year within one game of bowl eligibility, and it came in the way of a 37-6 rout of the Tulane Green Wave.
Yeah, not much offense, but a lot of defense.
A lot of defense, and this was a big talking point for the first half, was that it was 7-6 at halftime, and partly because of very, very solid Tulane defense coming out and kind of figuring out what they wanted to do, and they took advantage of Mackenzie Milton in the backfield of making him have to throw the ball, and that turned in the form of an interception, and then just the Knights on offense really not doing anything in the first half. And being able to, thankfully, be gifted a short field and be able to convert with a Milton run in for the touchdown to be able to go up 7-6. But the big talking point of the first half was that just the Knights did not come out relatively strong, but may that also have been a Tulane kind of surge in the first half, which was big for the Green Wave.
Yeah, the Green Wave came out playing great defense.
Yes.
That was something.
Yes, their biggest thing I thought was their defensive line put a lot of pressure on Milton.
Yeah, and a lot of pressure on Milton usually means he's just going to try to run, and once you stop that, there's not much he can do with the pass.
Yeah, and it was something that I, watching, kind of noticed that they took away those rushing lanes.
Yeah.
They took away with guys like runners like this, where I watched a Mike Vick documentary, The Football Life, just kind of guys like that are really good at running. If you can kind of keep them in the pocket and keep kind of moving in on them to kind of take away those lanes of running and really make them throw, that's when those guys start to become a little ineffective. And that's what Tulane did to Milton. And it did show in the first half and pretty much for the rest of the game itself. Though the second half, there was definitely a recovery.
Yeah,
you could say, where the defense decided to kind of take it into their own hands and ended up scoring 3 touchdowns in the second half.
Yeah, I feel like the defense has been a strong point all season, though.
Yes,
so
and it paid dividends for the Knights in the second half with Drico Johnson getting 2 touchdowns, but one was a pick off a shovel pass, which was technically, I believe, a fumble.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's still 2 touchdowns, where it was the shovel was about a 33-yard return for a touchdown, and then the interception was an 87-yard return for a touchdown, which was huge, and then also Shaquille Griffin had an interception return for a touchdown as well.
Those are big. Turned the whole game around right there.
Those are big plays. I mean, those were all of the points after the first half, except for, which was a very interesting storyline that was kind of squashed by Coach Frost at the end, was that senior Justin Holman, backup quarterback Justin Holman, came in and was 3 for 3, led the Knights right down the field and scored in garbage time, pretty much, but still looked very impressive going out there, throwing the ball and running, and ended up actually taking it in for a score himself. So it was a little bit of, some of us were like, hey, maybe
we should put him in.
And I did tweet this as well. It's like, hey, that Justin Holman guy looks pretty good. Like, he should be starting. And it just was something that it was kind of like, wow, look at what a guy who really kind of took advantage of a team that was really making us have to throw it, took advantage of them making us have to throw it at the end.
And actually threw it.
And was able to get it down the field and get some big chunk yardage plays, which was missing from the offense last night until towards the end, where Tulane was pretty wore down on the defensive end and big chunk plays started to get off as the clock was being run down. But truly, the story was the defense, and that's something that the Knights need to bring with them, need to get that defense some rest this week, because they are taking on Cincinnati and competing for bowl eligibility.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
Okay, Cincinnati is a nice team. They came in, they're actually one slot under us in the conference, so this is a good matchup between 3 and 4, I believe, in the conference. So with that win and then leading into the war on I-4 will be a good one.
Yes, it'll be a lot of interesting storylines kind of leading into that game with Cincinnati this week as to whether or not we'll be able to get that W, to be able to secure bowl eligibility a year after going winless would be huge. And some kind of other thoughts was that, I wonder what you think about this. I know you know what I think, but we'll see what you think, was whether or not Frost, in a perfect world, decides to actually use Holman, and whether or not there could be a way that they could use both Milton and Holman on the same field.
I don't think there's a way you could use two
You don't think
quarterbacks
so?
and be successful. There's no way. That's what they tried to do with Tim Tebow, and you see where he's playing baseball now.
Oh.
So, but in a perfect world, Justin Holman would be starting, but I don't think Frost makes that move, just because he has Milton for more years to come. So he's trying to develop him more.
Yeah, because I know it was definitely interesting that as soon as I asked that question, Leland saw it and was like, "Oh yeah," and then someone, of course, asked that question, but Coach Frost really kind of put the kibosh on it at the end of the press conference, and it was kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
But I can't be too upset at a win, though the offense definitely needs to step up come the next game in Cincinnati, because you're not always going to be able to get 3 touchdowns from your defense every week. From the defense, what was one player you liked?
I'm gonna have to go with Griffin. I like that interception return from him. His brother played another solid game again.
Yeah,
so
he's
them
been
together is just a
fantastic.
great.
I will say one guy I liked was Drico Johnson. Obviously, had two touchdowns as well to add to that kind of surge in the second half with the defense to kind of pick up the offense and say, let's go and do this. What about one player on offense? Who was a player you liked?
I liked Holman.
Yeah, you like Holman?
I did like a little drive comeback. I know you're gonna say Milton, but
No, I won't say Milton for that. No, he didn't earn that. 9 of 20, 85 yards and an interception is not gonna keep the lights on offensively. I think one player I liked would be that it looked like, I think just as a whole, it looked like the running backs tried to definitely keep the offense going. And I think a player that more I want to see more out of down the line would be Hamilton, the running back Hamilton. That's more not necessarily a guy I like, that I think needs to have a big week coming up, as he's definitely proven to be more the guy that can kind of get inside the tackles and kind of have those more physical runs where a receiver kind of slot, kind of modified running back Killens can't necessarily do that just yet, but to kind of have these bigger running backs like Hamilton kind of carry the load. And to carry the load kind of going into next week, that's definitely what I would look at. All right, and before we completely close the door on UCF football for today's episode, we'll kind of talk about some of the issues that kind of did pop up during the game. One interesting one was that the reported attendance was absolutely nowhere near what the actual one was, where they were reporting about 30,000 when it was maybe half of that, which is interesting, but not super surprising, because a lot of people, probably from a scheduling standpoint, to kind of look at it, they looked at this week as a game that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, so a lot of people, this is your vacation week. I actually took vacation.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, all of us did. It kind of looked at like this was the open week to do that, because this was originally UCF's bye week. So now that this was a rescheduled game that they were remaking, that it kind of was a little interesting situation that a lot of people probably planned, like vacations and stuff like that, because a lot do plan to go, but it's something that they need to be able to get more people to the games. But the way they're able to get more people to the games was by doing exactly what they did this weekend, was winning at home.
Yeah.
Because it's big to win any game, but winning at home for the home crowd and kind of seeing like, wait, they won a big game here, and they'll be able to go and be able to win bowl eligibility next week. I want to go check that out. I want to be there to be able to say, hey, I saw it. And that's something that's a way they can do that, because I know that's something that from a UCF athletics marketing standpoint is a big question mark for them.
Especially a game where you have all the hype and you have all the blackout and everything. So you wear special outfits and everything.
Great
so,
uniforms. I loved those helmets.
The helmets, oh my god. Yeah, that was good.
I'm a sucker for a black uniform, but that one,
with the gold on it, looked
good.
Great.
But those are ways that teams can kind of counter that, like, hey, look, we get to come see these cool uniforms and stuff, like, come see what the team's going to be like. But this was a weekend that I think was an odd weekend because of the remake of the Hurricane Matthew, but also I see from a fan standpoint, from a very casual fan standpoint, that every single American Athletic Conference game we've had here, we've lost. Or non South Carolina State, we've lost. We've lost every home game this year up until this point. And that's hard for people to want to go if they're saying, well, all they're going to do is win on the road, win while we watch it on TV, if we even can. So from a night standpoint, if you want to get more people to come, keep winning at home and make that a home field advantage, which I think they're trying to do, like with the player that brought the shield out for the first time. That was the first time I've ever done that as far as we're concerned. And it was kind of a cool way to kind of like They need to build that home field advantage to when they come to Bright House Stadium that
You have to make it now. You're going to
yeah,
have to work to win
you're going to
here.
have to win. You're going to have to work very hard to win. And, of course, the question we've always asked is the culmination of the first year of the war on I-4, which will be going down on Thanksgiving this year, the question is asked as to whether or not we can beat USF. What do you think?
I believe they can. If we have solid quarterback play, I believe we could have beat Houston. Houston to me is better than USF.
Yes.
So could have beat Houston. Could have beat Maryland. Could have easily been 8-1.
Yep.
So with that, I would say yes.
I would echo that sentiment as well, as kind of saying that if the offense is able to show up, that USF defense, has been kind of a weaker point of that team. That is something that if we're able to take advantage of that, and defensively we're able to keep getting that offense off the field and not get stuck out there, talent-wise, we are talented enough to be able to get USF off the field and hold them and contain Quentin Flowers and all these other talented players like Marlon Mack, that it's very doable. Just offensively, they need to take advantage of the defense getting these chances for them in the first half when they're going to be able to really go after that USF offense. If the offense is able to put up points for the Knights, I think it's very doable. That it would be a huge win on Thanksgiving that could really set the tone for what it's going to be like under Coach Frost.
Yeah.
So, as the answer, at least on my end, can we beat USF? Yes. But it has to come from an offensive standpoint. So if Milton is our guy going forward, they need to be starting to get ready to do so, because this is going to be essentially the big game for UCF at the end of the year to kind of see as a measuring stick as to where the heck we are after 1 year. And for some of these players, these young players like an Adrian Killings and a Mackenzie Milton, that this is what have you guys done for us this year and where are we looking at for next year? Because even if we do end up getting a bowl game, which I like, we have 3 chances to win one game. Ideally, we pick up one and we're able to go to a bowl game. Who knows what that bowl game is going to be, but it's to do that. But this is going to be the big game no matter who we play in a bowl game, because this will be one of the better teams we've played all year, and it's someone that will be playing in the future as well. So it'll be a big game, and I think the Knights can do it. So we'll see.
You need more than 9 completions from Milton, though.
We're going to need that.
We're going to need more than 9.
And we'll do that. And then for the last other UCF sport we'll cover this week was men's soccer, because it actually was their senior night. And how did that go?
Yeah, the men's soccer team actually won 1-0 for their senior night against Cincinnati. It was another physical one. And you know what's been crazy about this league is that due to the teams in it, there's been no dominant team. There's always a hard-fought matchup when we go out there.
That's something that, as we have started to focus our coverage a little bit more on everything, UCF sports-wise, is that kind of realizing that, like there's not an easy game in any sport. Like football, sometimes it's a little bit because there's some of these schools, it's very different. But it's sports like soccer, volleyball, and all these other sports, it's like almost an even playing field, but also that the talent's there as well, that it's not an easy game for anyone when it comes out. And that's when, that was a brief thing we'll touch on, is that the American Athletic Conference is saying this as well. It's like, look at all this talent we have. From top to bottom, our games are so competitive. Our teams are doing so well on different stages, with Houston knocking off Oklahoma and all these other teams being very competitive, that they did wear on their helmets this week. And it's a story to watch in the future, is that they were putting a P6 on their helmets, which stands for that it's actually not a Power 5 with the team with conferences like ACC, SEC, Big Ten, was that it's a Power 6 with the American Athletic Conference being in there. And they do have a valid argument in many other ways, but it's something, a storyline to keep watching, and it's something that could end up being a very legitimate argument through the ways that we've seen the scoreboards and how our teams have been competitive when they've played nationally. But it's definitely something to watch.
Yeah, most definitely. And on top of that, it's like teams like SMU coming out to beat powerhouses in our conference, like Navy or something crazy like that.
And it's just a lot of teams from top to bottom that they're able to make some noise in different sports in different ways, that it's impressive. It's very interesting to see, and it's a storyline to watch, definitely, from here on out. All right, and to fully wrap up all of our UCF coverage, is we'll run down some of the UCF events that we'll be looking forward to and potentially we could have some coverage for. One of the big events that will be coming up, as I'm sure if you have walked by the CFE Arena even remotely, you will see that Light Up UCF is starting up pretty soon, I believe November 17th. and we will have Leland check that and the correct date. If I'm correct, it'll just be like, yeah, James, you're good. If not, then we'll see the correct date that'll be right underneath, and we'll potentially have a link in the description to any of the more events related to Light Up UCF coming out. And also that we did do a RWC climbing race video, which was pretty exciting, and talk about what we did.
Yeah, it was a fun little race between James and I, a nice little competition. We can't say who won or who lost.
Yeah, 'cause we have to check out the video to see
Yeah.
that. But it was a lot of fun. I was going out to check out the rock climbing wall again because we did enjoy it the first time we went out for the climbing challenge, and it was a fun time, and it was good to be able to get back out there. Those people are always so nice at the RWC.
Yeah, make sure you go check them out also.
Yeah, go check them out, and we'll be able to see that video coming down the pipe. Hopefully this week we'll see how it comes out, and we'll see how it goes. And just for upcoming games, we're not really aware of anything else because a lot of the other sports have kind of wrapped up, like soccer-wise. Basketball starting up November 14th. I believe it's here at the CFE Arena. The men's basketball team is starting off their season, it might be preseason, with Nichols. So hopefully that should be a W. I don't know where Nichols is. So that's kind of my indicators whether or not we should win. And of course, come check out the UCF football game against Cincinnati this week, fighting for bowl eligibility. The game is at noon, so it means tailgating is starting early, like 7 a.m. Get out there, make some pancakes, some eggs, enjoy all of it, some bacon.
Grill your pancakes.
Get all of it, waffles, whichever. Just get out there and enjoy it. And then we will briefly run down the picks from this week as Ogarth took another W. As
happens all the time.
Completely unknowing to me that Florida was upset against Arkansas 31-10. Nebraska did not pull off the upset and was smoked by Ohio State this weekend, to put it lightly. But we were both correct as we did choose Alabama this weekend.
With a 10-0 win.
Yes, it was a very hard-fought game that I did watch a little bit of, and it just was a defensive bloodbath.
Yeah, that might be the closest game you see from Alabama for the rest of the season.
Oh, probably. And we will, of course, as always, when the picks don't go well for James, we'll move on to next week. And the first game we'll talk about is Baylor against Oklahoma, which will be a big decider in the Big 12.
I'm going to go Baylor if you let Houston beat you, so I can't go for Oklahoma.
I've enjoyed Baylor, but for some reason they always let me down in games, so we're going to go Oklahoma, see if Baker Mayfield can work some of that magic and put Oklahoma in the driver's seat for the Big 12. So we'll put Oklahoma down. I think I spelled it wrong, but autocorrect had me. And our next game down the pipe, what was it?
It's going to be LSU and Arkansas.
LSU and Arkansas. Okay.
Once again, Arkansas didn't let me down last week. I'm going to go with them again this week.
I'm going to hope LSU is able to figure this out. We'll go with LSU this week. I didn't choose you last week because, understandably, you're going against Alabama, but they almost did it. For 3 quarters, they held them scoreless. That's not bad. And I think defensively, if they're able to match that same energy and get Fournette going, which they tried to do but just couldn't against that Alabama front, let's see if they can do it this week, and that'll be a big one to see. Then the last game we had, which should be a very exciting Big Ten matchup yet again, between 7-2 Minnesota against 7-2 Nebraska.
I'm going to go Nebraska. They're coming off a loss. They're going to come out and play hard, I feel like.
I'm going to go with Minnesota just because we saw how ugly that Ohio State game when they didn't have their quarterback Armstrong.
Yeah, it got ugly.
And he got, like, stretchered off.
Yeah.
Like, bad stretchered off. So I say that they don't have their quarterback to be able to drive that team, and I think that hurts them at the end of the day. So I think Minnesota will be able to pull off a big upset to go to 8-2 on the year and not even be ranked.
Goodness.
So that would be something to see. And that kind of concludes our picks for this week, and hopefully they go a lot better for James. All right, and before we get out of here, as always, we will do our final quotes for the day. Would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Mine is from Jim Carrey. It says, "Behind every great man is a woman rolling her eyes." And that's so true because my mom rolls her eyes all the time. So, that means I must be a great man.
What I will do for my quote is from Jerome K. Jerome, is what I am looking for is a blessing, not in disguise.
That's a good one.
There you go. And to thank everyone, as always, thank OSI Podcast at UCF for letting us in here. Thank you, Zoe, our gracious director, for allowing us access into the studio. And thank Leland, as always, for editing and shooting all these awesome pictures, going out to all these events, setting up all this awesome stuff. Thank you. And he can plug whatever social media part he wants. He's already made the lower thirds anyways, so he just gets to use his name a little bit more. So that's good for him. And thank you for watching another episode of the Jimmy T Podcast. We'll be back next week.
Charge on.